My name is Esther Wachuku, and these are the top stories. Akpabio speaks on health condition of nominee who collapsed during screening. Chicago State University denounces validity of certificate Tinubu submitted to INEC. Presidency speaks on Tinubu presenting first certificate to INEC. Akwa Ibom PDP denied celebrating Tinubu's alleged fake certificate. Details now. The world news begins with Senate President Godswill Akpabio giving an update on the condition of Balarabe Abbas Lawal, the ministerial nominee who collapsed during screening earlier today. VOP News gathered that Abbas slumped during screening after he had read out his profile and was answering questions on why the lawmakers should confirm him. The development forced the Senate into a closed session as medical personnel were brought into the chamber to revive the ministerial nominee. After some minutes, Abbas was successfully resuscitated and taken out of the Senate chamber by an ambulance. While speaking on the development, Akpabio said Balarabe admitted that he was exhausted, having been overworked for some days before the screening. The Senate president said the nominee insisted on proceeding with the screening, saying he was fine. Elsewhere, controversy has continued to trail the authenticity of the diploma certificate President Bola Ahmed Tinubu claimed to have obtained from the Chicago State University CSU. The president used the certificate to secure his final clearance for participation in the 2023 presidential election on the platform of the All Progressives Congress. In the latest development, a top official of CSU, Mr. Carl Westberg, on Tuesday said that a replacement copy of the diploma certificate Tinubu submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) was not from the institution. Westberg, who is the registrar of the university, speaking under oath, specifically told the court that he was seeing the diploma certificate copy for the very first time in the instant proceedings. The subpoenaed witness testified on oath on the order of Judge Nancy Maldonado to back up the order for release of academic documents of President Tinubu to the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Atiku Abubakar, who participated in the February 25, 2023 presidential election alongside President Tinubu, had challenged the declaration of the APC's candidate as winner of the election on various grounds. Among the grounds are that Tinubu was not qualified to have stood for the election on the grounds that he submitted forged documents on oath to INEC to secure eligibility. In compliance with the order of the court, Westberg, who testified on oath that Tinubu's diploma certificate, which he claimed to have obtained from the university and which he used to secure clearance for participation in the presidential election, is not a document of the university. For example, the witness admitted that the institution had no board of trustees in 1979, as against the claim in the certificate Tinubu submitted to the electoral body. When pressed on the signatures and other certificates issued in 1979 and the one President Tinubu submitted to INEC, the witness admitted variations in signature, logo and seal. Specifically, Westberg pointed out that the signature on the replacement certificate on the replacement of the President Tinubu matches certificates issued in the 1990s and not those of 1979 as claimed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Meanwhile, the presidency has eventually come out to debunk the claims that the certificate presented to the Independent National Electoral Commission by President Bola Tinubu to be able to contest the 2023 presidency is forged. The senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Temitope Ajayi, who issued a statement regarding the controversy on Wednesday, said there is nowhere in the deposition made by the Chicago State University that the institution admitted that the certificate presented to INEC by President Tinubu is fake. He argued further that the university affirmed under oath that Tinubu indeed attended and graduated from the institution and that the school does not handle replacements for lost certificates. However, Ajayi in his submission said there is no truth in such claims as no man can forge a certificate he already possesses, and it is only what you don't have that you forge. Taking to his X account, that is a microblogging platform, the presidential media aide wrote, and I read, "We should be clear. In the deposition made by the Chicago State University, there was nowhere the university said the certificate presented to INEC by President Tinubu is fake. The university insisted under oath that President Tinubu graduated with honors, and even at that, replacement for lost certificates are done by vendors, not the university." To speak a little bit more on this particular development, I actually have via the telephone a legal practitioner, also a political commentator, a social affairs analyst, Barrister Eze Eluche. Barrister Eze Eluche, good evening and welcome to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having me in your studios virtually.
Barrister Eze Eluche, it is quite unfortunate that this particular topic is still in the news. The reason why it has been was concerning the back and forth on how the president has reacted based on questions that were asked about the authenticity of his certificate. Unfortunately, we're now on the forum and the questions have continued to come in. Now, the school, eventually, we've seen depositions online, questions being asked. We've seen depositions on what transpired in the school. A couple of Nigerians are asking, could this be a priority or is this a distraction? Is this supposed to be a priority or a distraction? The presidency has come out to say that there was nothing forged about the president's certificate. The secretary of CSU has come out to say that that particular document, it is not from them. It is not something that the institution has been part of. So which begs the question here, where does the president stand in all this? I really need you to give some clarification.
Well, thank you very much. At any time, the legitimacy of the person who portrays himself as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is a very vital and primary issue that must be addressed by all Nigerians. What is going on now is that there is emanating from the Chicago State University depositions, there is clear evidence that fraud, identity theft, and several other crimes might have been committed by the person who is calling himself Mr. Bola Tinubu, because there is some discrepancy between what the president has said he has submitted and what the university thinks or is saying that they can give. Now, mind you, what the university is sending out on the positions is on oath. And if we recall, at the beginning of this whole issue, we had several people trying to affidavit that they were classmates and all that stuff of the Mr. Tinubu. But the court insisted that the university must enter the positions, swear on oath facts. And I made it very clear, and I've made it very clear in several forums, that the essence of asking the university to depose to issues on oath was because when the university lies on oath, many people are bound for jail, including the school's board, the school senate, and several other persons, unlike when an individual just comes up and swears whatever. So the depositions that are now coming out from Chicago State University are to the effect, one, that the person who got admitted into Chicago State University was a female U.S. resident who had attended high school in the United States of America. Now, the issue is, the person we have in our country as the president, is he female or male? Did he attend high school in the United States of America? Now, if he didn't do this, that means the person who is Mr. Bola Tinubu in Nigeria is not the same one that got admitted into Chicago State University. With regards to his graduating from the school, yes, the school says that the person that graduated from their school is male. Now, the issue is this. Even if the school said, yes, we did have a Bola Tinubu who graduated from our school, the question is, the certificate that Mr. Bola Tinubu presented to INEC, is it known to Chicago State University? And clearly, on oath, the university has deposed to the fact that the certificate that Tinubu sent to INEC is not issued by that university. The school authorities were asked specific questions regarding the seal of the school on that certificate, on that document Tinubu sent to INEC, the issue of board of governors who signed on that certificate when the school had no board of governors. So those were the critical issues, whether a forged document was submitted. Now, a forgery is when there's an alteration or an attempt to copy a real document. So even if the school did issue a certificate of graduation to a Bola Tinubu, the one that was submitted to INEC is what the school has categorically stated is a forged document. Now, let me inform your listeners about a specific section of the Nigerian Constitution. Section 1371J of the Nigerian Constitution states clearly that anybody who submits a forged document to INEC is not qualified to be the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is Section 1371J. Nigerians should please familiarize themselves with the Constitution. It says clearly that anybody who has submitted a forged document to INEC is not qualified to be president. Now, anybody who now tells you that after submitting a forged document to INEC, the issue of whether the president, Mr. Tinubu, should continue to be there is not it's a distraction, you wonder whether the person respects the Constitution. Because clearly, the Constitution makes it very, very clear that the person is not qualified. Section 1371J. Nigerians should feel free to look at this section. And if the school says what you submitted to INEC is not our document, that means it was a forged document.
All right, Barrister Ezeluchi, I want to take you back to this particular Caleb Westberg, because the reason why I want to ask this question is the school themselves have created confusion with the inconsistency of their responses to this particular certificate saga or the controversy itself. This same Caleb Westberg, who is a secretary, he swore in an affidavit. I want to read out the things that he said, which actually contravenes his recent disclosure on the oath that was sworn in yesterday. Caleb Westberg said that he is employed as a registrar of Chicago State University and authorized to submit this affidavit on behalf of the school. He said that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu graduated, right, and was awarded a degree from Chicago State University on June 22, 1979. He also disclosed that Chicago University provided a diploma to Bola Ahmed Tinubu and subsequently provided a certified, that is an official copy of that diploma. Both are valid and authentic diplomas of Chicago State University. I want you to patiently listen so you get where I'm coming from. He said that there are certain differences between the diploma and the certified copy because all diplomas are signed by the current president/board chair. He also said there are also differences in the font and seal on the diploma versus the certified copy because the university updated its font and seal after the diploma was issued. He now went further to say the difference in the date of award on the diploma versus a certified copy is likely the result of human error. The graduation date on the certified copy is typed in manually by a person and can be inaccurate. He went further to say in the United States of America, institutions of higher education often consider the diploma to be a ceremonial document. Now, let me take you back to Caleb Westberg's statement as of yesterday. Mr. Caleb Westberg, the CSU registrar, since November 2020, said that Mr. Tinubu did not apply for a replacement certificate, nor was he ever issued one. During the deposition that lasted about 5 hours, Mr. Caleb said Mr. Tinubu's certificate dated June 22, 1979 and tendered to INEC on June 17, 2022 was not issued by the school and its administrators could not be able to authenticate its source. So which begs me this question. Who is playing who here? What exactly is going on? I've read to you an affidavit sworn in by this Caleb Westberg, and this is his response as of the deposition, which was sworn under oath yesterday. So what exactly is going on?
Beautiful. Now, there is absolutely no confusion. Why I say there's no confusion whatsoever is this. Whatever documents you have seen or heard about that have been parading everywhere prior to this deposition before the court amounts to naught. Could have been forgeries, could have been the imagination of whosoever, clearly immaterial. That is why the court specifically asked the university to depose to this affidavit, to make this deposition, so that all issues to be set out clearly. So the comments, the views being looked at now is the deposition that was entered by the university. Because all other things are hearsay, they are neither here nor there. Because I also read through the depositions, and it is instructive to note that in the court, the lawyers did not even make reference to these previous documents, the so-called affidavits you are talking about.
Okay.
Because that's what is non-existent. They may just be part of the propaganda of the government to keep on causing confusion and in the minds of Nigerians. But you can only confuse people for a while. Reality is reality. The reality is that in the deposition before the court, the school, the university, the Chicago State University, has stated clearly, in very clear terms, that the document presented by Mr. Tinubu, Bola Tinubu, who is the president of Nigeria, was not issued from the university.
You have less than 1 minute for this call.
Oh, Barrister Eze, go ahead, please.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And as such, it's a forged document. So whatever other documents or oaths or affidavits you are referring to, it's immaterial, because it could as well be forgery. A lot of forgeries have been going on. If you can forge a school certificate, what is the affidavit that of the person that did not even raise up, was not even mentioned in the court depositions? Because the lawyers would have asked to clarify any discrepancy. But there was none, because most likely the affidavit you just read out is non-existent. It's the imagination of somebody in Nigeria who keeps on trying to deceive people. There is an extent to which you can deceive. This is a deposition before the court. And
all right. The question that everyone would ask is it possible for that to actually transpire at this point in time? For Barrister Eze is very certain. You are very certain that there is a tendency that that particular affidavit was forged. It possibly could just be a propaganda scheme from the presidency. But Barrister Eze, let me ask you, because I read the deposition as well. And it seemed that Caleb Westberg was a little bit unsure when some questions were asked. So I want to read out some of the questions that were asked to Caleb Westberg and his response to the questions that was asked by him, because like I said, there's quite a couple of confusion here, and we need to analyze this properly. There have been accusations that the press has been carrying information that may not be verified, and some information going out too that the press is just carrying out propaganda from the presidency. So we're logically looking at this. Now, there is a question that was asked concerning the document that was presented by INEC. So here it says, the INEC diploma says that the diploma is granted on this 22nd day of June 1979, correct? Caleb Westberg said yes. And CSU didn't have a board of trustees in the 1979, did it? Of course, the school said true. So a question came up again. So let's look at the signature on the INEC diploma. On the right, it looks like one of the signature says Elnora Daniel, correct? Yes, the school responded. And Elnora Daniel was not the chair or the president of CSU in 1979, correct? Answer, yes. And she was the president from 1998 to 2008, correct? According to the school, their response was, as far as I am aware. Then they ask again, for the other two signatures, the one on the right looks like her, Herbert A. Conley. The school said it doesn't state Dean under it, correct? Answer, it does appear that may be cut off from, I don't know, possibly the document. But it is not there, and they say they do not see it on the paper. And question, and Herbert A. Conley was not a dean in 1979, correct? And the school said, as far as I'm aware. And the signature on the left, who was that? The response is very hard to make out signatures. I'm not sure what the name is. Question, you don't think this person was the chairman of the board in 1979? The school responded, I didn't say that. Then the question comes in, are you looking at a different document? The response from the school is, I think this matches what we have for, other documents that were tendered earlier, Exhibit 10 and 11. And then it will go on and on. Now, it happened to be that there were inconsistencies in the report, which is the fact that the seal on the Exhibit 6 doesn't have, it is a triangle with which it has lines through it. The school said yes. Now they asked, and the seal doesn't have the word responsibility under it. They said correct. Not on this copy, no. And that the seal, that is the seal on the particular certificate, they're trying to ask if it corresponds with what the school can match up with. And the question go on and on. Now, for example, if you now see other exhibits that were tendered, and they asked again, and CSU doesn't have a diploma, doesn't have a 1979 diploma that contains the font, CL signatures, and wording apart from the INEC diploma, correct? The school said correct. And CSU doesn't know, they went ahead to ask questions. Is it possible that CSU doesn't know of any diploma like the INEC diploma being issued? The school said correct. So the question is, all of these things were done under oath, and the school was responding accordingly. And they kept on saying correct to the questions that were asked. And the question that bears to mind is, for the president, he said that his document wasn't forged. The president also insisted that this particular effort of Atiku Abubakar and his camp is futile because it would not be used at the Supreme Court. That this particular case is something that should have come up before the presidential election petition courts and not after. Possibly it may not be of use. What's your take on it, Barrister Eze?
Well, the issue is this. The main thrust of this whole effort by Mr. Atiku Abubakar is to prove that a forged document was submitted by Mr. Tinubu to INEC. And from the responses the school gave in the deposition, the seal that was on the document that was submitted to INEC is not the school's seal. The signatures, though they are part of, he knows some of them, but they are not, the document is not the school's document. And if it's not the school's document, and it was sent to INEC as the school's diploma, that means it was a forged document. So that, I mean, when you understand the issues, you know that the school was very clear in its responses. A forged document was presented to INEC. And going by section 137, subsection 1, sub J, it is very, very clear that when you submit a forged document to INEC, you are disqualified from holding political office.
Okay.
So any effort at raising confusion is only local. But let us warn Nigerians. We are risking more embarrassment down the road if we don't take care of this mess within.
Okay.
If you recollect, when we missed the opportunity of addressing the James Ibori issue, it had to require a court in London to arrest, prosecute and jail James Ibori for criminal activities in London. If we refuse to tame this issue of forgery, identity theft within Nigeria, I will not be surprised if the person who is bearing the name, who is traveling abroad as president of Nigeria and gets arrested and prosecuted for forgery and other allied offenses, then we will start crying that the Caucasians, Europeans, Americans don't respect us. We should respect ourselves now. The issues are very, very clear and they have been settled.
Barrister Eze, in 1999, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Salisu, his name is Salisu Buhari, because of certificate forgery, he resigned due to certificate forgery. In 2018, Kemi Adeosun stepped down as finance minister because of fake NYSC certificates. And so now it's 2023. Obviously, there are speculations concerning the president's document, academic record that was tendered to INEC. What do you think the president should do?
He should not resign anywhere. The thing is that the Supreme Court must declare his candidature and that of his deputy, Kashim Shettima, invalid, and they should be struck off the list. We don't want any resignation. This case has gone too far. We cannot have fresh elections, and we cannot have his vice ever coming into the office based on the fraud of forged certificates of Mr. Tinubu. What Nigerians will be demanding now is a clear invalidation of their candidature. And either the second person who's in the INEC list or a rerun of the other processes can take over therefrom. Mr. Tinubu cannot resign because what he resigns from now should be a joint ticket. He and his vice should step aside and they should be declared invalid because that is what the law says. When Section 137, Subsection 1J of the Constitution says you are not qualified, that qualification applies to both the president and his vice because it is a joint ticket. It is not only one person who has to resign. Both of them have to go for Nigeria to move on. Let us avoid embarrassment whilst we are still ahead. At the international level, all this propaganda being reeled out by Festus Keyamo or Nguleri or whatever will not hold sway. Just like when James Ibori was caught in Dubai, all his wealth or whatever could not save him from spending time in jail in London. We cannot afford that indignity as Nigerians.
All right, Barrister Zaluche, thank you so much for your time on the World News at 6. I sincerely do appreciate your input.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Meanwhile, the Akwa Ibom State chapter of the People's Democratic Party has distanced itself from a report online linking it and the state governor Umo Eno to celebrating the alleged fake certificate of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The party called on Nigerians to ignore the report trying to drag Eno and the party into a matter that is undergoing the processes of law. This was contained in a statement today by the party's publicity secretary, Borono Basi. The statement reads, and I quote, "The attention of the People's Democratic Party in Akwa Ibom State was drawn earlier today to an obviously fake news item being circulated on social media, alleging that our party and the governor of Akwa Ibom State and leader of the People's Democratic Party, Pastor Umo Eno, were secretly celebrating Alhaji Atiku Abubakar's efforts in exposing President Tinubu's alleged fake certificate. We urge well-meaning Nigerians to ignore the ill-intentioned attempt to drag the governor of Akwa Ibom State." And now to wrap up the world news at 6 right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. Here again are the top stories. You heard Akpabio speaks on health condition of nominee who collapsed during screening. Chicago State University denounces validity of certificate Tinubu submitted to INEC. Presidency speaks on Tinubu presenting fourth certificate to INEC. Akwa Ibom PDP denies celebrating Tinubu's alleged fake certificate. And that is a wrap on the world news at 6 right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Wachuku. Good evening and thank you for staying with us.